Welcome back to the KR Daily Transmission. I am on the road and I am so grateful to be able to connect with you this morning. And this week we've been dedicated to the Green Tara Key Code 3 teaching transmission in the Sophia Code. And I asked Green Tara, what would she like for us to focus upon today before the weekend? And she shared with me insights from her Key Code 3 initiation, which was written in the first person to be read out loud. And this really highlights the power of communication. Um, we've been focusing on the topics of creativity and communication all month long for March. And communication, what a dialogue that we could have about communication. For this brief daily transmission, what Green Tar would like us to focus upon is how we are communicating to our mind, how we are communicating to our hearts through the perspective of our higher self. And this is why the Sophia Code was written to be read out loud, because the sacred texts, these words from Green Tara, and from all of the Ascended Masters, are written for you to read out loud and communicate back to your awareness the truth of your sovereign divinity. There's something that happens when the power of our own voice gives voice to the truth of reality, the truth of who we really are. And when we say something to ourselves that's as powerful as what's written in Green Tara's Key Code 3 transmission, we are communicating our highest creative potential to our own awareness and to every level of our being as every Key Code initiation ends, sealing up those activations and those initiations on every level of your being. And when we approach the Key Code 3 Green Tara initiation, this is an extremely powerful initiation that's it has multiple parts to it. The first part of her initiation opens with this incredibly visionary transmission based on the many iconic symbols that Tara uses to help mentor our awareness to always reach higher, to always reach for the truth of our divinity and to operate our awareness from that space. And it's just this beautiful visionary journey that helps us meet her directly, eye to eye and heart to heart. And the second part of Green Tara's initiation is a sound healing ceremony that you perform out loud. It's a dissertation on her mantra, Om Tare Chitari Tori Soha, that activates your chakras. It just starts flipping all the switches of the divine genome for you to explore these very powerful Sanskrit seed syllables and feel the resonance of those seed syllables moving throughout your body, awakening your heart and your mind to the divinity that's ringing out within every cell of your body. In the third part of Green Tara's Key Code 3 initiation, we walk through these 21 aspects of Green Tara and we visualize them within ourselves, which is actually as a technique, it is what happens in Tibetan Buddhism. You are being invited to visualize these divine qualities of the deities within yourself. Now, as many of you know, in the Sophia Code, we don't speak about Green Tara necessarily as a deity, but as a master of light who ascended in the Sirius star nation and then was asked by Divine Mother to come to this planet and to guide humanity in its own evolutionary arc of awakening to a new golden age of enlightenment. And so these 21 aspects of Green Tara, when you read them out loud, you are initiating your own voice as a part of that angelic mission that Green Tara is still serving here, helping us evolve and ascend in our daily lives and in our daily practices. And it's just an extremely powerful journey for your voice to speak out loud to yourself in a mirror or at your altar or in nature, and to feel the vibration of these words ringing within you. And happens what happens when you read words that are this powerful about yourself? Well, it's very much like in a Tibetan altar practice where there's the bell and the vajra, and the bell rings the wisdom that dispels all fears and insecurities, and also assists the vajra in cutting away any and all demonic influences, dark influences over your body, heart, and mind's ability to recognize and self-realize itself. So I asked Green Tara page to read out loud from in the Sophia code, and she guided me to page 158. And this is when we're rounding the corner at the 16th aspect of key code 3 within you. And Green Tara, a title for Green Tara that she's asking for you to try on in your ability to communicate as a divine being. It begins with, I now recognize and activate the 16th aspect of key code 3 within me. I am the one who arises from the intrinsic awareness of whom. I open my heart to the sound of whom, clearing out the projections of others upon me. I open my mind to the sound of whom, revealing the empty nature of my reality. I open my soul to the sound of whom, consecrating the pilgrimage of my body through form. I release all judgment and understanding about the nature of reality, so that my innocence may guide me to the womb of no thing. It is here that I increase my embodiment of living wisdom by allowing what is arising to inform my ever-present now for the liberation of all beings. Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha. Wow. So we could have a dissertation on both creativity and communication from this one paragraph of the 16th aspect of key code 3 within you. For those of you who are new to this concept of the key code 3, key code 4, key code 5, the numbers only are significant in the sense that they build, each initiation builds upon the last. But within that key code 3 initiation, every divine virtue that Green Tara is revered for, what her embodiment so eloquently expresses, these are the same divine virtues that are being activated within your divine genome as you read this key code 3 transmission out loud. So there are countless divine virtues. You could study Tara's tradition and how many divine virtues she has embodied for thousands of years. You could spend your whole lifetime studying Tara, let alone any of these ascended masters featured in the Sophia code. So please know that there's not 3 aspects. It's like, and there's all of the countless divine virtues that Green Tara embodies. That is the key code 3 initiation that is activating and awakening those divine virtues and attributes within you to explore, to embody, and to create with. So let's begin from the top of this very activating paragraph where Green Tara is asking you to say out loud this Sanskrit syllable of whom. And whom is a Sanskrit syllable that is said to eradicate all karmic ramifications. And when we are commanding our voice to free us of our karma, what we're asking for is a divine intervention of grace from our own higher self, from source, to help balance the scales for the least amount of harm to be done. Because the truth is, like, there really are soul scales, that we have to keep balancing and rebalancing through our lifetimes until we've really fulfilled um, the desires as well as the deeds that have been left unfinished. It's like there's a real reason why there's such an urgency at the end of one's life to really make amends, hopefully, to ensure that one's legacy will continue to help others in the future, um, and just settle your affairs before you leave. And that's because any advanced soul knows, whether it's a subconscious knowing or a very conscious knowing, that we live countless lifetimes in our journey of self realization as a divine being. And even after we graduate from physical form, there are so many other causal layers of different manifested etheric bodies that we can still choose to create reality from. And those eventually have to be ascended from as well. And it's just like, I want to be careful in the sense of saying anything as though we're having to run from anything, because that's not the point. We choose life as our classroom. We choose incarnation as a way to reveal. It's a way that divinity chooses to get engaged and involved in the co-creation of life, and it's also how your divinity gets to self-actualize and push its understanding of how limitless it is through the seeming limitations of your human journey. So these Sanskrit syllables are known in the ancient world as very powerful resonant sounds that have been shown in meditation to help clear obstructions from previous lifetimes, mental obstacles, fears, and anxieties that we bring into this life from other lifetimes that need to be resolved so that we can continue our journey of self realization, our journey of growth, and giving back to life. And what's also significant is that these obstructions that we can carry over from other lifetimes can prevent us from seeing with great clarity the truth of reality. And this can also prevent us from really owning our intuitive centers, and also the wisdom and the knowledge that we're bringing in and the gifts and talents from previous lifetimes. So, this sound of whom is a very powerful resonance to help clear your mind, clear your heart, and even clear those parts of your body that are holding on to energies or records or information or wounds or trauma that simply no longer serving your evolution. So let's begin with that first sentence. I open my heart to the sound of whom, clearing out the projections of others upon me. Oh, that's interesting. Why would we need to clear out the projections of others upon you? Well, if you're going to be a creative being, pushing the envelope in life and blazing a trail where no one else has ever been before, even by simply just being, someone who thinks differently, behaves differently, chooses differently than others, that generally makes other people feel uncomfortable or jealous or fearful or even competitive. And if we allow those projections to come in and become a part of our identity, we can start to devalue ourselves. We can begin the process of becoming really attached to unworthiness in an unconscious attempt to protect ourselves from our natural creativity, from who we really are. Not that we could ever get away from who we really are, but we can certainly fight it and try to hide it from our own selves. And so the sound of whom, excuse me, clears out these projections um, that we may have internalized as the punishment of others for being creative, awakened beings. Further, the resonance of whom is attuned to the resonance of sovereignty, because if you are truly living in the fullness of your sovereignty, this means that many of your karmic imbalances have become balanced, or are on their way to becoming very balanced and empowered, which then allows you to create on the earth plane in a way that most people do not get to even tap into, because you're tapping into the sovereignty of source. And so this resonance of whom clears out both what is holding you back from your sovereignty, as well as trains your mind to abide in the resonance of sovereignty. The next sentence, I open my mind to the sound of whom, revealing the empty nature of my reality. That's interesting. Why would the empty nature of reality be important? Well, if your ego structure has attached all of its value and worth to what's physical, what you have physically, what you can produce physically, what other people have physically, this world becomes a burden, and it becomes a burden on your shoulders, when in truth you are the light of God. And that, as Jesus taught, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. What does that mean? That means that the lightness of your divinity gets to awaken through form, but form can become heavy if we think we have to rely on form as the awakener. The emptiness of reality is the lightness and the cosmic laughter of God consciousness behind all form. When we tap into that Zen mantra, form is emptiness and emptiness is form, which I shared about in January, it doesn't mean that we don't take our responsibilities in form seriously, because that would not be wisdom. What we understand is that our journey through form is a privilege and a gift and a classroom. And whatever we've been given to attend to love, to care for, to nurture, to grow, to support, to relieve in life, that is ours to do. And yet, what we are doing is we are attending to the consciousness of God that is manifesting that form out of the nothingness of what God is, whether you call God she or he or it or they. That God consciousness is what is maintaining and holding form together through the grace of divine love. The truth is that we're all dreaming this dream. And all of reality, all of the every bit of light that's manifesting this dream of form comes from the nothing. This is why we talk about immaculate conception over and over again in the Sophia code. Form is an immaculate conception arising from the Divine Mother's womb, from the very sacred heart of that consciousness, that part of God consciousness that is perpetually giving birth to all life. So when this sentence says, I open my mind to the sound of whom, revealing the empty nature of my reality. Oh my God, that resonant toning of that seed syllable, whom, is allowing your ego structure to relax and become very quiet and still to the holiness of the silence, the holiness of the stillness, the holiness of the nothingness, which is the miraculous space from which all of life arises. When we return back to the nothingness, we realize that all of the ego structures striving, all of the ego structures competitiveness, all of the ego structures arrogance by identifying its worth through form, we get to be relieved of that with this seed syllable of whom. Everything returns back to that 0 point. That, oh yes, of course, of what is the truth of reality. It is the emptiness, and that is why the dakinis are often named as the embodiments of that empty bliss, the bliss of emptiness, because they are forever revealing to us the truth of reality. And what happens when we are able to surrender into the truth of the nothingness that is all that is? Well, we get to come into alignment with what the divine will is that sent us here. That consciousness of your divinity, which is formless and unlimited energy, consciousness. Consciousness exists whether it manifests in form or not. No one ever mentioned that. That's the deal. Consciousness doesn't need form to exist. It is indestructible and invincible. It exists forever and ever. It chooses form. It chooses to express itself through form. Do you see the difference? If you think form owns you, that's where all the confusion and the anger and the frustration comes from. If form is here to serve the divinity within you, as Jesus taught, seek ye first the kingdom of God within you, and all these things shall be added unto you. And again, it's like Jesus was teaching from these concepts that he trained in the Far East. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form is arising out of the emptiness. This places form back into its proper placement in our cosmology. If we are not hung up on what form says about us, which is an ego identification, then we get to experience the bliss of serving the divine consciousness, communicating the divine consciousness, flowing through us. That is our higher self, which is always in communion with that source. And from that space, you can create in form, you can communicate through form in a way that is honestly like free of the ego structure and full of the divinity that you are. That's where clear creativity, clear communication arises from. The same place that all of form arises from, the nothing, the stillness, the quiet listening to the voice that is listening for you. Just like Sophia shares in chapter 1 of the Sophia Code. Next sentence. I open my soul to the sound of whom, consecrating the pilgrimage of my body through form. Okay, so in the previous sentence, whom is honoring this, that the first experience consciousness has of itself is in the nothingness, it's in the empty void. In this next sentence, Green Tara is guiding us into the recognition that the seed syllable, Sanskrit syllable of whom, is also blessing and consecrating the pilgrimage of your body through form. What does that mean? It means that your human body, your human journey is a pilgrimage. Isn't that cool? How would your daily life be different if you thought of it as a pilgrimage? I've taken spiritual pilgrimages to different sacred sites around the world, and it's extremely moving to travel to a new location that people have prayed at, worshipped at, done ceremony at for centuries, even thousands of years, and to feel, that human body of yours standing in a sacred site that countless people have been a part of creating the sacred that's there, and to feel that you are about one pilgrim of countless pilgrims that have arrived there, and every pilgrim and pilgrimage was important and blessed that space. And yet it also really puts into perspective the individual journey as a grain of sand in the cosmos of souls that are having this pilgrimage through form. It's very humbling and it's very empowering at the same time, which any authentic spiritual experience will both humble and empower you simultaneously. And so what's so cool about what Green Tara is guiding us through in this passage on page 158 of the Sophia Code, that's where we're reading from, is first we clear out the projections of others so we can think clearly for ourselves. Then we open up our mind to the truth of the nothingness, the empty nature of reality, which then we realize the miraculousness of form. From that emptiness, realize that form is an immaculate conception. The next sentence, then we open our soul. So we're opening our heart, we're opening our mind, then we're opening our soul. Those first 3 sentences, just the power of the Sophia code just goes on and on and on with these ascended masters. The third sentence, I open my soul to the sound of whom, consecrating the pilgrimage of my body through form. If every day of your life was a pilgrimage to this planet, how would you be living your life? If every day of your life was a sacred pilgrimage through form, what really matters at the end of your life, at the end of your day, at the end of your week, at the end of this month? What will you be creating in a new way? What will you be communicating in a new way? These are the questions to ask yourself. They're not always easy questions to ask, but they're questions worth asking because you're worth it. That's the whole point of all of this. So the next sentence, I release all judgments and understanding about the nature of reality so that my innocence may guide me to the womb of no thing. So now we're releasing our own judgments and even what we think we understand about the nature of reality. And that's really important because if you want to expand into the truth of your divine consciousness, you have to let go of small ideas about what that consciousness can think, do, say, speak, act, create. The consciousness moving through you is pure inspiration. Your higher self consciousness moving through you is genius creativity. The divine consciousness of your higher self is forever abundant. The consciousness of your higher self is divine love in action. The consciousness of your higher self is pure. And every day that we walk this path with the Ascended Masters, we are learning how to surrender into the power, purity, creativity, and communication of that divine power flowing through us and doing our best not to interrupt it. This is why we must release our judgments and understanding about the nature of reality. Why? So that your innocence may guide you to the womb of no thing. Why would your innocence guide you to the womb of no thing? Well, because your innocence knows where all your greatest power lies. Your innocence is that creative genius that knows where all your highest options lie. Your innocence knows that, yes, your ego structure can manifest and create certain things that you can experience in form, but your higher self can go directly to the source to download heavenly solutions into your life that go so far beyond the ego structure's maniacal attempt to distract you from who you really are by only force feeding you little bits and pieces of what it's willing to give you when your higher self wants to give you everything. I mean, I can just hear the laughter of our collective innocence just waiting for us, to really, I don't know, finally come play with it in a womb of no thing where everything is arising from. And so that's where we come to in this final statement. It is here. It is here in this womb of no thing, in complete communion with the Holy Mother of all life. It is here that I increase my embodiment of living wisdom. So it is in the nothingness that you actually increase and empower your physical embodiment of living wisdom. Your living wisdom is literal gold to others. Literal gold. Your wisdom arises from the humility and empowerment that you've experienced in your pilgrimage through form. Your living wisdom knows the empty nature of reality and can help others who are willing to open their eyes to the truth of reality as well. And that there is this divine consciousness that is forever expanding creation underneath the thin veil of creation. We are far more consciousness than form. You can write that down. We are far more consciousness, the stuff of consciousness, than we are form. So this last sentence, it is here that I increase my embodiment of living wisdom by allowing what is arising from the nothing to inform my ever present now, which is the creative genius arising within the ever present now for the liberation of all beings. So, what happens when we really start to walk an awakened life, knowing the truth of reality, embodying the truth of our divinity, and then practicing these divine virtues that come with the light of our divinity? What happens is we begin to embody all of this good news, of course, for ourselves first and foremost in the journey of our spiritual awakening, but then for the liberation of all beings. We're connected to everyone. You don't have to hold your journey back for anyone, but know that you are the blessings, the benefit of your personal journey is affecting the collective in a mighty way. And for that, to you, I give thanks. Thank you so, so, so much. And thank you for spending this moment with myself, with Green Tara, during this KR daily transmission. I invite you to go back and read the 21 aspects of Tara that are arising and awakening within you this month of March, this weekend, and feel free to share your reflections from reading the Key Code 3 initiation in the Sophia Code, which can be found in Green Tara's chapter. At the end of Green Tara's chapter. Feel free to share your reflections, your thoughts, and your feedback. And you can share about this video too. What came up for you while watching it. I want to thank you for staying connected with your comments and your feedback on all of the replays this week as I've been traveling, and it's been so good to see you as well on Instagram. If you haven't followed me on Instagram, it's the same name, Kaia Ra Official, on that platform. And if you're new to my channel and the KR Daily Transmission has been bringing blessings into your life, you've been enjoying being together with our beautiful community and team angels, feel free to go ahead and subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share your thoughts. We'd love to read them. And I look forward to being here with you live and in person next Monday for our next KR Daily Transmission. Have a beautiful weekend, everyone. Namaste. Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha.